Jos Verstappen rarely comments on matters outside his son's orbit, but his words this week carried real weight. In an interview with De Telegraaf, the former Formula One driver described McLaren's situation as strange and said Oscar Piastri should bang his fist on the table if he felt the team wasn't treating him equally. His remarks arrived at a decisive point in the championship. Just as Piastri's 34-point cushion over Lando Norris had completely vanished, leaving him a point behind with 4 rounds remaining and the next stop at Interlagos. For Piastri, this downturn is not about politics but performance. He has dismissed every suggestion of favoritism, insisting his lack of pace in Austin and Mexico stemmed from the unusual combination of soft-end Pirelli compounds and the low-grip surfaces that demanded a more extreme adaptation in driving style. McLaren's leadership has supported that view. Team principal Andrea Stella explained that Norris is more comfortable when the grip level is lower, when the tyres are more prone to overheating and sliding, while the Australian is still learning how to extract lap time when the car moves around that much. Yet from the outside, the picture looks unbalanced. One side of the garage appears to be improving every weekend, the other searching for answers. Norris's calm run of results, second in Austin, victory in Mexico, has contrasted sharply with Piastri's confusion and frustration. Verstappen Sr.'s comments simply gave public voice to what many inside the paddock were already wondering. Has the momentum within McLaren shifted decisively? And if you want to follow how this single remark could reshape the tension heading into Brazil, keep listening, because the story behind the words runs deeper than it first appears. Piastri's statistical slide is easy to chart. Since his win in the Netherlands, he hasn't stood on the podium. The Austin sprint collision with Norris, the compromised races that followed, and a 5th-place finish in Mexico have all contributed to the erosion of a lead that once looked safe. What troubles Piastri most is not a clear mistake or mis-setup, but a feeling that what used to work simply stopped working. "I've executed reasonably well," he said after Mexico, "but the lap time just hasn't been there. We've got some evidence as to why it's not been there, but I think the question as to why some things haven't been working, I'm not sure we'll ever know the answer to." That honesty captures the difficulty. Formula One drivers prefer tangible problems: an understeering front end, a brake temperature imbalance, a clear line to fix. Piastri's struggle is vaguer, buried in how the car uses its tyres and how he senses grip through the steering. Earlier in the year, he had rejected a front suspension configuration that Norris adopted to improve steering feel. Whether that difference now contributes to their divergent comfort levels is unknown, but it lingers as a subplot. Norris's form has meanwhile stabilised around the qualities he once lacked. Early in the season, he was criticised for emotional outbursts and overdriving in qualifying. Since his win in Monaco, he has made a visible effort to balance highs and lows. Mentality is improved, approach is improved, preparation is improved, Norris said recently. All of that has improved because of doing more work and spending more time trying to understand things. I certainly feel like I can deal with a lot more now than I was at the beginning of the season. That maturity shows. He treats success and failure with the same composure, a hallmark, as Jackie Stewart once noted, of drivers who reach the top. For McLaren, the optics are delicate. Zak Brown insists the team remains committed to open competition. "We're going to stay true to our racing principles," he said, "which is we're racers and we're going to race each other hard. Hopefully we finish first and second, and we let them decide who's first and who's second." It's an admirable stance, but one that becomes harder to defend when results skew consistently one way. Verstappen Sr's intervention plays into that discomfort. "I find it quite strange what's happening at McLaren," he said. "Piastri can't have suddenly forgotten how to drive, right? If I were him or his manager Mark Webber, I'd bang my fist on the table. Because right now everyone is wondering whether he can handle the pressure, and that's not good for your reputation." It's a pointed observation from someone who has lived both sides of the father-mentor dynamic. To the paddock, it sounded less like gossip and more like a coded warning. The perception of weakness spreads quickly. Piastri, to his credit, didn't bite. It's not the case. he said firmly when asked about any favouritism. The last couple of weekends have been a bit trickier, but we've got pretty clear answers on why that's the case. There's not really too many mysteries on what's happened. There are some questions on why some differences have cropped up in terms of how I need to drive, but everything is explainable. His measured tone reflected McLaren's internal culture, one that encourages drivers to stand up for ourselves without fueling headlines. Still, calm explanations rarely silence speculation when results tell another story. Inside the team, engineers have spent hours comparing data traces, searching for patterns that might explain the discrepancy. The leading theory links to the way each driver manages entry phase rotation on the softer compounds. When grip drops, Norris allows more slip, using the tyre's peak transient grip, whereas Piastri's neater, more linear inputs can leave performance untapped. At high grip venues, that style difference hardly mattered. At Austin and Mexico, it was decisive. The last couple of weekends, you've needed to drive differently all the time, in a way that I've not had to for the whole year, Piastri admitted. Just trying to understand what I need to shift to and how that feels has been the biggest learning curve. That learning curve collides with the championship curve. Piastri's composure has been one of his calling cards, but losing control of the narrative, even briefly, tests any driver's equilibrium. Jos Verstappen's comment that everyone is wondering whether he can handle the pressure is not only provocation, it's a mirror to the mental strain every title contender faces when dominance erodes. Max Verstappen, now 36 points off the lead, still lurks as an outside threat, but his father's remarks were aimed not at destabilising McLaren's fight, rather at illustrating how swiftly perception can change. For 6 months, Piastri was seen as the calm, methodical benchmark. 2 difficult weekends later, he's being painted as fragile. That transformation says as much about the sport's psychology as about lap times. The truth, as often in Formula One, is layered. McLaren's equal treatment policy appears genuine. Its car characteristics have evolved slightly. Its drivers are simply reacting differently. But the timing of this dip, arriving when the constructor's title is effectively settled, inevitably fuels suspicion. In that vacuum, Jos Verstappen's voice resonates more loudly than any datasheet. Piastri's challenge heading into the Brazil GP is therefore double. On track, he must rediscover confidence in a car whose behaviour has drifted from his instinctive window. Off track, he must project control. He has already stated that McLaren encourages us to stand up for ourselves, and that he feels very comfortable doing that. The subtext: he's not a passive participant in the team's direction, yet asserting that authority publicly risks appearing defensive while staying silent invites speculation. Navigating that contradiction is part of the education every young driver faces when results start to slip. In the other cockpit, Norris approaches Interlagos with a calm assurance. Since Zandvoort's oil pipe failure, which left him trailing by 34 points, he's taken a more liberated approach. Maybe a couple of little decisions here and there, he said of his resurgence, but I'd put it more down to just having worked hard and having a very good team around me. 99% of it's down to that. That figure might be exaggerated, but the confidence behind it is not. Such contrasts define this phase of the season. Piastri searches for explanations. Norris builds rhythm. Jos Verstappen's blunt message crystallises that divergence. His call to bang his fist is metaphorical, but its meaning is clear. Champions don't wait for balance to return. They demand it. Still, it's easy to underestimate the subtlety of Piastri's predicament. He's only in his 3rd year at this level, driving a car whose balance window can swing sharply with temperature and tyre load. At tracks like Interlagos, with its mix of long corners and elevation changes, adapting instantly is critical. The risk is that in trying to correct too much, he loses the strengths that made him so efficient earlier in the season. I need to make sure that however I need to drive, whatever the car needs, whatever the tyres need, I've got the tools available to adapt, he said. That's an engineer's mindset as much as a racer's, but the championship won't wait for perfect understanding. McLaren knows it's walking a fine line. Zak Brown's commitment to fair racing earns praise, yet the team also recognises that internal equality doesn't always mean external symmetry. Success magnifies everything. One good result for Norris, one poor stint for Piastri, and the entire paddock starts reading politics into physics. Interlagos will be a test not only of driving adaptability, but of narrative control. If Piastri can find the rhythm he lost in Austin and Mexico, the championship resets. If not, Verstappen Sr.'s words may echo longer than intended. His provocation has done what paddock provocations often do: highlight tension that already existed. As Formula One moves into its final sprint of 4 races, the margins are microscopic and the pressure suffocating. And McLaren's garage will insist nothing has changed, but the data, the body language and the results hint otherwise. Piastri doesn't need to literally bang the table. He needs to make the stopwatch speak for him again. The question is whether he still has time and grip to do it before the championship balance tilts for good.